I'll do it. Should be
Okay,
recording now.
thank you. Right, Azu, everyone. I would like to welcome everybody to the state opening of the 62nd Cosă of the Kingdom of Tolosa. Yeah, you already know me, obviously, but my name is Marcel Tafiao. I'm the Tuishach, and it's my job to moderate these proceedings today. I don't really have anything prepared. I just want to thank everybody for making this happen. And we'll just go to the first point of the agenda, which is the swearing in of the Seneschal. The most honorable Alexandru Davinescu, Baron Davinescu of Village Vleric. Right.
Are you ready, Brian?
I am ready whenever you are.
I'm ready.
All right. Would you like me to repeat after you, or should I just say the oath?
I don't have it in front of me, so just go ahead and say the oath.
All right.
The king
Affirmаю
can start with the
solemnemente.
I.
Oh,
The king can start with the I and then you continue.
All right. I'm
It
just
is the
going to go ahead
normal
and say the
procedure.
oath at this point. Affirmаю solemnemente que Alexandru Davinescu râmplea con fidelità l'oafish da Sua Majestà se Seneschal da Regipax Tolosan es defensatiu al melior da validità la segalità dell'Estat Tolosan sa viva la região.
Well, congratulations, Seneschal. You're now officially the Seneschal.
Thank you. And thank you, Your Majesty. And I'd like to thank, of course, also our Tuishacht and Mencier for making these proceedings possible.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, let's just continue then to the speech from the throne.
Okay, let me grab it real quick. It's on my computer here.
That's fine.
Okay. Greetings to our zoo and esteemed guests. On behalf of our government, we are pleased to present this speech from the throne. The formation of our government has been a series of fast-moving negotiations between different parties, and has ultimately resulted in a minority supported by confidence and supply from two other parties. While we hope that the result will be stable, we urge all parties to continue to work together amicably. We are pleased that the first bill on our clock is a result of collaboration and an open process, and we hope this is a harbinger of a bright future. For this 62nd COSA, our government will focus on a set of concrete improvements in service of good governance. Put concisely, these improvements will reform the immigration system to be more secure and accountable, provide a government portal to build on the success of Infoteca, and work to restore government services that have lapsed. These improvements will be joined to a legislative program of organic reforms to curb executive power and promote flexibility. One of our government's top priorities will be immigration, and fittingly, it has already begun working on this goal. A reform bill, the Bipartisan Public Process Act, is before us on the clock, which promises approaching victory to the many Tolosans who voted to end the government's power to reject immigration applications without public oversight. While there is no indication at this time that this power was abused, it is an invitation to corruption, and it will be removed. This legislation joins bills to reform the undemocratic power of the Seneschal to make laws and reform the military governorships that we no longer find necessary to deploy. Since the formation of our current government, it has worked to reform the entire immigration system. For years, immigration and citizen data has been stored on an insecure form, and the application form itself had serious issues with compatibility. The newly implemented system fixes these issues, allows for needed security updates, and reduces ministry workload. Another of our government's future goals will include outreach to other communities. This effort will be coordinated in partnership with ourselves, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and our Ministry for Propaganda. The outreach will provide for specific benchmarks for success. Another of our benchmarks for success and the priority of our young government will be government transparency. Infoteca has been kept mostly up to date since the inception 2 years ago, but it's only the start of what's possible. While the raw data will still be easily available to all citizens, our government will also add a new portal for the information which presents the data in a more accessible way. This portal will also feature the benchmarks for immigration success and other public goals. Key to all of these efforts will be an efficient cabinet staffed with willing and able ministers who are acting to serve the citizens. Our government will resist efforts to create new bureaucracies and will make certain that it occupies a middle ground between an overloaded few and an overcrowded many. Our government will also work to reform the entire cabinet system. Any approach which must always be circumvented was quite possibly the wrong approach to begin with. Our efficient cabinet will work to provide good government services as another priority. They will take a fresh look at our whole web presence, making sure our online tools are being used in the best way possible to make merchandise and other services available to the people once more. New projects will also be provided, such as a repository of useful files and images and starter kits for new clubs. To conclude, it is fitting to emphasize that the government of the Kingdom of Tolosa belongs to the people of the Kingdom of Tolosa, and it exists to serve them. The government will meet the challenges ahead in that spirit and in openness. In a spirit of openness to all.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Up next is the rebuttal from the Tanaisteo, the Honorable Michael Otofio.
Thank you. Vostra Majestat, estimați tu șafies mensei, va membros sonorești concuriais del ziu, estoct concicigens. Din această stanță del Cosă, l'Uniune de las Reformistas livrești, cum siu Majestat sa pozițion fier advocațarșa las tocas democratici pe Tolosa. Noi advocați argent das reformaziuns necessais per ar Constituțion, mas pu impertinent noi substarcent contra la qualsialitate compats del noveo gouvernement al democrațiu tolosan estiu transversion dels debats politicals de se. We're going to make it a little easier for everybody here on out. Your Majesty, esteemed Tuishak and Mense, my fellow honorable members of the zoo, fellow citizens, it is with a solemn sense of duty that I have the honor of addressing you all today as the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition. I wish to begin my remarks by thanking His Majesty for delivering us to the program his government will undertake in this term. In this term of the Cosă, the Union of Free Reformists, as His Majesty's loyal opposition, will promote the agenda for Tolosan democracy. We will advocate for necessary reforms to our Constitution. More importantly, we will resist the incoming government's apparent indifference to democracy and their aversion to political debate itself. Our opposition in this term is one of principle. This does not mean opposing all government efforts and all legislation out of hand, but it means doing our part to ensure that the zoo arrives at good solutions for the nation. Where we can positively influence these outcomes, we will do so, as we have already done by securing a compromise to improve the Public Process Act. Where we cannot positively influence, whether due to our principles or others' obstinacy, we will oppose, and we will find it well within our power to do so in the Senäts. As an example of the latter, the government seems determined to force through changes to its own structure. These changes have been publicly criticized, including by His Majesty himself, as having as their primary result a government that is less accountable to the zoo. We will oppose any attempt by this government to reduce or evade parliamentary oversight. Our other method of opposition is, of course, scrutiny, not just of legislation, but of word and deed. As an example, this government has said that one of its primary focuses will be on immigration. Focusing on immigration is all well and good, but in this case it bears noticing that there have been no naturalizations in over a month now, since before this government was even formed. Indeed, the pace of new applications has also dwindled. During the last term, the now Seneschal compared Tolosa with a low immigration rate to a, quote, house on fire, and said the nation was, quote, bleeding out. It may be appropriate then to ask if he would prefer a fire extinguisher or a suture during this government's downturn. Similarly, the government is committing to expanding our ties with other communities, quote unquote, which clearly refers to other micronations as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is involved. Given that the Seneschal has argued against the effectiveness of foreign relations and his government's reliance on the confidence of an explicitly isolationist party, it remains to be seen how he intends to honor this commitment beyond vague statements while also avoiding self-contradiction. The other main takeaway from the government's program is that once again we see mention of things like benchmarks. The last time the Seneschal and his posse were in government, they tried the same thing, referring to them as key performance indicators at the time. Given that these were found to add very little value for the government or the citizenry last time their implementation was attempted, it seems safe to say that we are looking at a rehash of the same old ideas, introduced under the stubborn belief that this time things will somehow be different. For our part, the opposition will be introducing fresh ideas. Our democracy agenda, intended to refine Tolosan institutions, promote good government, and encourage honest, issue-driven politics, will see multiple bills rolled out over the course of the term. Our good friend, the Honorable Sir Marcel Tafiel, has taken the first step with a sensible reform to align the size of the Cosă with a nation of Tolosa's size. Other bills exploring the powers of the Senäts, our electoral methods, etc., will be introduced in the near future. We hope that the government can be reasoned with and reach compromises where necessary in order to actually move Tolosan democracy forward. However, it is in the spirit of that same democracy agenda that we must once again point out that the current government is sustained in office by the votes of a party that actively rejects Tolosan democracy and has expressed a support for a number of extreme foreign political figures. Even if no sort of quid pro quo exists between these parties, the Progressive Alliance has made a deal that is impermissible for any truly democratic government. And as a result, we have no choice but to vote no on the opening vote of confidence, and we call upon all democratic parties in the Cosă to do likewise. Thank you.
I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Thank you, Senor Otofio. Up next on the agenda are the terpelations, so questionings for government ministers. The Tonight has first opportunity to ask a question.
Switch windows there, sorry. Yes. Estimat Tuishak, I rise with a question for the Minister of Public Records. Keeping in mind that La Cronica is intended for providing impartial information to citizens as opposed to publicizing Tolosa to non-citizens, can he give the reason for the handoff of La Cronica for the Public Records Ministry to the Propaganda Ministry?
Certainly. I am acting as the Minister of Public Records as well as the Seneschal, and the Minister of Propaganda is responsible for the internal and external promotion of the kingdom and all events therein and all things Tolosan through public relations, and ensures that the kingdom and its events are regularly publicized. That's the law. While the Minister of Public Records is responsible for reports and data about Tolosan life and government activity. Given the distribution of my cabinet, I thought that it would be best to transfer this to the government ministry that it seems best suited for. I don't have, and I don't think any reasonable valence can be read into this about anything. It was done on time, and it was done fairly well. I suppose we can, move it back over to the ministry and appoint a deputy or something like that, but I'm not sure that paperwork is really the good focus here. Did you have any follow-up questions?
That's my job.
I do not. No. No, thank you.
Right. Who'd like to ask the next question? Yes, Mr. Shiva.
Grazie, merci, estimat Tuishak. Votre appellation is per el Ministro de Propaganda, but since the propaganda minister is not here right now, I assume we will address this to El Seneschal. Okay, drawing attention to the Minister of Propaganda's post on Wittenberg of 24th December, agreeing to share a video from Fora Tolosa. Does the minister and or the government now believe that the proprietor of Fora Tolosa, who was condemned unanimously by the last ZIU for sexual harassment, is now a fit and proper person for the government to collaborate with?
Thank you for the question. Well, I mean, that condemnation was my bill that I wrote, so I think you can know where we stand on this. But I have word from the Minister of Propaganda. Propaganda considers it that its duty is to publish all interesting material related to our nation, regardless of its creator and its political affiliation, and or whether or not the ministry agrees with the content. For example, with La Cronica, criticizing values of the government. Publishing and collaborating are two different things. I think that there would be reasonable outcry if we were changing course here and beginning to engage on a personal level or something like that. But promoting the things that are happening in our country is not just the job here. It's our duty as a government, regardless of whether or not we're particularly fond of the person doing those things. That's why we will be eager to continue to publicize efforts by URL members, regardless of behavior or speech in that regard, or our personal feelings. It is our duty as a government to speak up and promote events. And more to the point, even putting a positive face on Tolosa and talking about good things that are happening is something that we're very happy to do. We hope to do much more of.
Supplementary tepelaction, if I may, estimate Tisha.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I think I just noticed in the Seneschal's response that he seemed to be equating the URL's criticism of government policy and indeed criticism of, even let's say characterizations of the principles of the Progressive Alliance. He seemed to be rendering that equivalent to sexual harassment in the kind of thing the government might have a problem with. Did he mean to do this?
I did not, and I would not. I'm simply illustrating that we are eager to present Tolosan events that occur regardless of what person is doing them, and regardless of our personal opinion of those who are enacting these activities. I don't think that there is any equivalence between the URL leaders or and the Green Party leader in moral terms. And I also feel like my credentials on this are fairly clear. Again, I authored the original Sense of the Zoo and have been rigorously in favor of continuing to enforce what you have called member of Cosă, Shiva, the cordon sanitaire. Is that right?
Sí.
Yes. And so, but unfortunately, our ability to engage in a block on personal collaboration has to stop with our duty as government ministers.
All right. The next interpellation is actually mine. I also have a question I want to ask, and for the purpose of this question, I would like to ask them and say to moderate it for me, if that's okay. So, Estimat Mensei, this question is for the Seneschal, namely, how many new citizens did we get per month during the last TNC government?
Um, sure. So the there were one naturalizations per month during the 59th Cosă, the Excelsius Anagat administration.
So my follow-up question is this. The Seneschal and I did discuss the matter of institutional reform and immigration numbers in the past on the Discord. And the Seneschal mentioned a figure of roughly 90% inactive new citizens to 10% active citizens, i.e. for every 10 that immigrate, one of them will be involved in the country and 9 won't. Keeping this figure in mind, how does the Seneschal propose to get the required 15 new immigrants per month during this tenure to get the 150 citizens total necessary to fill up the zoo with active members?
Could I'm going to ask you to clarify. So you're asking what our plan is to increase the number of citizens by double over the course of the next term? I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what you're asking.
The question was, keeping in mind that immigration figures during the last government that the Seneschal was involved in was 1 per month. And also considering that if you do the math, you would need 15 new citizens every month to get the necessary active population in the country to have an active zoo, for example. How does the Seneschal intend to achieve this?
Well, first of all, I would disagree with a couple premises here. So my ability to be active during that last government, I don't know if you recall, but my mother died during that period, and so I was not able to be as active as I wanted to be. Oh, yes, sorry.
I'm sorry, but I didn't want to imply that the Seneschal did or didn't do anything. I was just pointing out that in the last government, the figure was as that, and now the plan is to 15 tuple the immigration figure. I was just wanted to ask that.
I understand. So anyway, I was not able to be as active during that time as I would like. However, I will say that I'm not quite sure to what you're recurring, why this would be a goal to make the zoo active. We are currently in a legislative session of an active zoo, and unless you mean like to fill out the numbers of the entire 200 seats with one seat per person, is that what you're proposing?
This isn't really the format, but no, I was asking because the zoo as it currently stands is not very active, like this joint session notwithstanding. Most of the time we have members of the zoo that vote on the clock and don't really participate much in the legislation, like in the debates or anything like that. And the idea was that if we have, I don't know, 15 fresh faces who want to get involved in the legislative process, that this would liven the zoo up and contribute to the health of the country. I mean, more active citizens is always better.
Yes.
To get 15 new fresh faces, you would need, following the math you proposed of this 9-to-1 ratio, 150 new citizens within the next like 8 or 9 months.
Sure. I guess my confusion comes from you presenting this as something that I suggested would happen in the next 8 or 9 months. My suggestion was that this would be a long-term phenomenon that would develop. I think that, first of all, the 10% of citizens become active is in part based on a vicious cycle where there's not much happening, so people aren't as active once they immigrate, and then there's not as much happening, and so on. And I don't think that 10% is necessarily where it has to stay. I was just spitballing a number to illustrate a point. I wasn't, saying that 10% of all immigrants are active. But I think that this 10% could easily rise dramatically And it has in the past been much higher, where a much higher proportion of citizens who immigrate are then thereafter active. And so I don't think that that is a number that we're locked into. But I also never, and if I mistakenly imply this, I never meant to imply that we were talking about something that would happen in the next term. I think that's wildly unrealistic. Instead, I do think, though, and this is a great point to bring up, for which I thank you, that we do need to have goals when it comes to immigration. It doesn't make any sense to just spitball it and go by vibes. We should say we believe we want this many people to immigrate, and we want to see, and we want it to be at this level. And if it's below, then that's a problem. And if it's above, then that's great. Which is why we do intend to set key performance indicators again. These key performance indicators are things like how many citizens are we want to see naturalize in maybe a rolling average or the like. When we expect projects to be done by, instead of just like, hey, we're gonna get this done, trust us. We're gonna have like actual deadlines that the public can abide by, and we think that the people will appreciate this. And that will include an immigration deadline, or not deadline, immigration standard, naturalization goal. I don't think that we're going to get 150 new citizens over the course of this term. I don't think that's reasonable. It's possible, we'll cross our fingers, but we're only 3 weeks in, and so we'll definitely see. Previously, we've benefited from some really, really sharp viral moments that I think we have not capitalized on and that we want to capitalize on in the future. If you look over the course of the 60th Cosă, for example, there were 0.67 naturalizations a month. And the exact same number over the 61st Cosă, except for a 2-month span where we had these really viral video spikes from a Conlang TikToker as well as a Turkish TikToker, and these really big spikes. I feel like those we should need to try to make those happen. We need to capitalize on them when they happen just organically. And I also think that we need to attempt to use more networking effects. One thing I've noticed is that those citizens who tend to be more active are often those with other personal connections with the kingdom and its citizens. We saw for a long time a lot of people bring in their friends, bring in their family, and then those people would bring in folks. And that, I think, led to a sense of local community. It led to a sense that your friend was involved with this. So I think we're going to try to come up with some way to encourage people to invite their friends and family directly to join, and see if that can actually lead to more active citizens. And so I don't know, is the number 10% active for every batch of citizens? I don't know, but I do know it's fairly low, and we can make it higher.
Thank you. Are there any other interpolations? Doesn't seem to be the case. With that, we will then continue to the informal joint session of this year. And first up is a debate on 62 RZ01, the Public Process Act Redux. Senor Davinescu, as primary sponsor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Very proud of this bill, obviously. It was, in fact, the result of, first of all, an initial just offhand reaction to try to close a loophole, and then it kind of blew up into a major campaign issue. And the original bill lacked what the Tuashak here called teeth to enforce it. And so I want to thank him for being a major collaborator here and assisting me with making it so that we are going to be able to prevent any even possibility of secret government barring of immigrants, prospective immigrants. So far, it doesn't seem to have occurred, and I believe everyone when they say that it never happened in the past. But also, it's not a thing we should have to trust, and so we're going to be building on that by already have a system in place. I've already asked the tech minister to create an opposition email account that His Majesty will hold the keys to and will give to opposition leaders so that they can verify applications as they come in are then being processed. No one's being turned away or applications being lost. Just the general oversight is going to be really helpful. I know it might seem unusual for a seneschal and a government to be actively working to increase oversight on their own government and ensure that things are happening in an above board way and in a consistent way. But we really think it's important just for the future. And so I'm really glad to see this happening, and I would like to urge everyone to vote in favor of this bill.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? No?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to look for the raise hand button.
Okay.
My apologies. No, I believe that we've gotten a fair compromise to actually introduce that oversight to improve this bill and make it something that actually has some kind of, I'll say, enforcement to it. So I have already voted for it and encourage others to do the same.
Thank you. The way it's set up in the rules of procedure, I want to give every party an opportunity to speak on a bill in government and opposition order, like interchangingly. And in this case, it would be either Senator Alpesteir or Senator Spencer. Would either of you like to speak on the bill?
My name is Garrett Spencer, and I represent the Independent Greens and Anarcho-Surrealist Party. I was trying to think of something silly to say, but I can't think of anything silly about immigration except do we accept applications from Sasquatches? And I have not been able to access the agenda of this meeting, nor this bill, so I shall have to abstain.
Thank you. The agenda is posted in the Zoo board, and the bills are all listed on the clock. It's already been posted by the Secretary of State. Yes, thank you. He just posted a link. Yes, Senator Vinescu?
Yes, I'm informed that the two hands raising is how we will be signaling for points of order. Yes, just as a, I'd like to also add that the MC might find a link to his database credentials in his email.
Thank you.
Senator Adolfo, was that a signaling or? I saw you put your finger up. I didn't know if that was a signal for anything.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Are there any other members who wish to speak on the bill? If that's not the case, we'll just close the debate on RZ01 and continue on with RZ02, the advisory opinion removal amendment. The primary sponsor, which I believe is Senor Comprada, has the floor. Yes.
Will we be voting on the bill after its reading, or we're gonna vote at the end after we read them all?
We will vote at the end. So, Senator Comparado, you have the floor, if you wish.
I am open to questions. I think that the bill is pretty straightforward in that it would remove the ability to do an advisory opinion from the judiciary based on the persuasive comments from the Senate.
Thank you. Any more people who wish to speak on it? Yes?
Put the full hand up this time. Yes, given the opposition to this one from some people with far more experience with our legal system than I have, I think it's a bill to oppose. I think we should be open to looking at how altering how advisory opinions work, but I don't think that deleting them outright is the right way to go about it.
Thank you. Senator Vinesco, you have the floor.
I was surprised by the course the debate on this bill took. It started off as something very different, adding in an additional person who could make an advisory opinion. In my opinion, advisory opinions are a poor way to run a court system. They empower people to ask for laws to be overruled by the judiciary or altered by the judiciary outside of a democratic framework. And I don't believe that that is really the role. I believe that our courts should be able to dictate the scope of laws and strike them down as necessary. Of course, that's part of the job of the judiciary. But also, I don't think that having it so that a few people in power can just say, "Hey, we don't want this. Can we not follow it?" I don't think that's an appropriate way. I believe instead the best standard for a court system is the case and controversy standard, where the judiciary can only consider something if there's a live issue at hand involving people and stakes, and that is some protection against the anti-democratic element here. I don't feel super strongly about this. It hasn't proven to be a significant problem, but in the ideal world, I don't think we would have advisory opinions. I will be voting in favor of this bill.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on it? Yes.
Great, merci, estimat Tisha. My model for I think we do need to get away in Tolosa from taking things in terms of the United States model, not only because this is a succession from the United States, but because Tolosa is a parliamentary democracy and thus follows different basic principles. And for me, the model for this power is the power held by the President of Ireland, who is entitled to refer bills to the Supreme Court of that country to test their constitutionality. But if their constitutionality is established, he is then not entitled to veto or get in the way of this law. Now, of course, I belong to the party of the democracy agenda, and I'm fully of parties, which is, but right now, the people. Who are the people entitled to put this forward? Is it the king and the seneschal? I forget. Is it the Secretary of State as well? Right. Well, we're talking we're talking the democratically elected. We're talking the main democratically elected official, the top civil servant who is under democratic supervision, and I don't think anybody who supports the Tolosan monarchy is going to be saying it's undemocratic for the king to ask the court and out their question on the issue. So I will be voting to oppose this bill.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Yes, Senator Dominescu, I think.
I think that the monarchy is an important part of our country, and obviously I am democratically elected. But nonetheless, by and large, laws should come from the legislature, and giving the judiciary having the power to strike down things is essential. But I just think we should be careful from whence such a request can flow. I agree, broadly speaking, with the idea that we shouldn't just take the American model as read in all of these circumstances. There's no reason to do it just because America does it that way, have a case of controversy standard. I just think it happens to work better and lead to fewer problems. In the country of India, for example, the courts are very free to just intervene, even when not being asked, but also they're frequently asked. And we have a lot of legislating from the bench that occurs in India. My colleague, Mencier, can I'm sure speak to that if necessary, but it is just something that I think we should limit. Again, I don't feel strongly about this either way. I appreciate the wise counsel of MC Shiva.
Yes, Your Majesty. Yes, Senator Peste, I saw you raised your hand earlier. You have the floor.
Yeah. Actually, I thought I would not be speaking as being the MC. I would not speak on any of the bills and would likely just take the votes on them. But as the Seneschal also pointed out, in India we follow a different system, and as Daphne, I mean, Mr. Shiva rightly pointed out about the constitutionality of what happens in Ireland, and our constitution is also a mixed bag of all the well-established constitution of the world. So we follow this system where the courts actually intervene time and again, whether they are asked to or whether they are whenever they are not even asked to by any of the people on their own, they take things into their hands and try to run the country according to the constitution. So I would like to oppose the bill on that ground.
Thank you. Your Majesty, I saw you also raising your hand. You have the floor.
Thank you. As one of the people mentioned in the bill, my concern is I've always looked at that particular power of, hold on one second. Sorry with that, my Alexa was going off.
No problem.
One of the powers is I interpreted it as interpreting official actions. For example, say I felt like I had a certain organic authority, and before I acted upon it, asking the courts, do I actually have that authority? For example, that'd be one reason why I would have used the power. Another thing is we're forgetting that even though the zoo does create the laws, I still have to assent to them. And I believe that it's better if I had the power to ask, is this bill organic, rather than just vetoing a bill. I think it's more of a more democratic for me to actually get advice on something before I'm sorry, am I not allowed to talk anymore?
No. That's fine. I just saw the Seneschal signaling. I assume that means he wants to ask you a question on your speech. Do you give way?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I was just waiting to speak next. I apologize.
Okay.
To interrupt.
Okay, fair enough.
That was my interpretation of the law as it stands now, as giving me or the Secretary of State. And speaking of someone who's been in all of those roles, the Secretary of State and has sat on the court, we're taking away one thing that the court could actually do. Right now, it's a very quiet body, and it always has been. And I don't understand why we would just eliminate something that the court now no longer will be asked to do the very rare times they're actually asked to do anything. I think we're just eliminating laws just to eliminate laws. That's my opinion, but I'm just the king.
Thank you. Senator Evanescu, you have the floor.
So I saw someone ask somewhere whether or not courts have the power to strike down a law on the basis of advisory opinion, and then also with relation to His Majesty's take here, I'll just point out that advisory opinion is when you're asking a court about a law or an interpretation of an existing law. You wouldn't ask the court to give you legal advice about whether or not something is or organic generally. You would ask a lawyer or the avocat general or someone like that. And they would give you their take on that. I especially don't think the court should be weighing in on pending legislation when they might then later have to rule on that legislation. That makes the court into a kind of mini legislative body. So the way an advisory opinion is, it acts as like a review of the law and can strike it down or strike down a part of it, or issue an injunction about it. Historically, these have almost never been used at all, only a couple of times. And then it was for the pretty strict thing of like, here is the law, what is my job here? Which is, I think, the most admirable version of this, and the version that His Majesty is advocating for. But I do think that is the job of like the avocat general or a lawyer, not the job of our high court to give advice about. As to the level of activity for it, yeah, the court does not do much. This would be one less thing for them to do. That is a definite downside to removing this possibility.
Thank you. Senor Terracompada, I saw you like thumbs up reacting. Was that a signal for anything, or was it just signaling approval of what was being said?
Signaling approval for some of the arguments that the Senator was making in agreement.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to speak on this bill? Yes.
I would suggest that the word advisory in the current organic law means just that. This is much weaker than the Irish provision, whereby if the court says this is organic, the president must sign the bill into law. The question is also that legal opinion is one thing, but there may be situations in which the non-political parts of the government, i.e., the head of state and or the head of the chancery, might want to get non-political answer to the question. So I think the current provision, I think you can argue with certain of the details, but I think right now it provides flexibility, and it provides a way for the CPI to be more active. So yeah, so I think I think we can debate further on whether the current provisions might be amended, but right now just striking them down really would be throwing baby out with the bathwater.
The floor, if you wish.
You cut off there.
Oh, yeah, and I'm giving you the floor.
Thank you. So I've heard two members in this session say that they have concerns about the activity levels of the judiciary. But this is not the first time that I've proposed something similar to this. I proposed an expansion, and this may be the confusion from the Seneschal. Previous version of this was an expansion of the ability to ask for an advisory opinion, which under your logic would have led to more activity possible. So my confusion is why in the past did members of this body oppose expansion, I'm assuming maybe it was personal, oppose expansion of the advisory opinion, and now you're using that argument to oppose this one. It's confusing.
Senor Davinescu, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to I'll step aside from MC Sarah Comprada's comments here just to mention. With regards to the advisory opinion, just like legally, it is just to clarify, it is I think that at the very least we want to come back to this because the way the law is right now, an advisory opinion, it might sound soft, but it is just, hey, make a ruling. It's not in any way different from an ordinary court ruling because it says that this is something that would resolve the question and determine the issue. Like the language of the law currently heavily implies that it is just as potent, and it's not just like here's our advice; it's here's a ruling, here's the official interpretation. So it has been limited in its use, but it does not have to be. So may at the very least, can we come back to this and then clarify that perhaps we want it to be advice rather than a ruling, and that would have the same benefits that His Majesty and MC Shiva has mentioned, and but without the scope of danger to which I've referred. I don't know if that's something we can come down as a compromise in the future. Hopefully, we can.
Yes.
I would like to add
Mr.
to it. I would like to add and counter the Seneschal on this, and probably for the first time speak on this subject supporting Mr. Shiva. We have never been on good terms as such in Tolosa. But on this, I would like to support her and say that actually, when the advice is sought by the king, specially, it has to be a non-partisan sort of a advice rather than coming from the attorney general, who is generally appointed by the government. The attorney general is appointed by the government, and if you take an advice from a legal person, and as a king, he just can't go to a layman, means an advocate of the kingdom who is not so well known in the country, and therefore it is better that he goes to the judges who act as his counselors on this and gives him advice which might turn out to be a ruling in that sense.
Thank you. Senor Tsaracomprado, you have the floor.
So the official term of the
Point of
government.
order, Mr. Shiva, yes?
Point of order, Estimat Tuishar. This debate's going on. This debate's going on and on and on and on and on and on. And as I've said before, some of us have other commitments.
Yes.
I'm not saying pull the plug now, but I'm saying a ruling of how long are we going to allow debates on any particular topic to go?
That's a fair point. In this specific case, I guess I don't want to set any long-lasting precedents right now. I was just going to say I would like to hear from Senor Tsaracomprado first, and then we can have a vote on whether to close early. And then we can go on to the next, like either have, I don't know, if someone wants recess, we can also vote on that, and then we can go to the next bill. Yes.
So I would say, with respect to advice coming from the
excuse
general.
Excuse me. Senator Davinescu has raised a point of order.
Yeah, try another point of order. Is a motion to proceed and close debate on this issue in order at this time?
As I said, I would like to hear from Senator Tsaracomprado first, and then we can have a vote on it, if that's okay with everyone. All right. Senator Tsaracomprado, you have the word. Like the floor.
Just want to be sure, no more points of order. Mr. Speaker, thank you. As far as the political advice coming from the Advocate General, I would point out it's termed His Majesty's government. And so the people are serving king and country. This is not, you are thinking from a U.S. perspective if you're making the argument that the Advocate General would be unable to give advice to the head of state. That would be my perspective. And so I don't see it as overly political for the monarch to ask for advice from his Advocate General. That's just, maybe that's an incorrect perspective, but I didn't see that as being overly political.
All right, thank you. So as I promised, we're going to have a vote on closing the debate early now. Everyone who wants to close early, please raise your hand. Okay, I don't even need the spreadsheet for this one. This is a majority, but who is against? Nobody? Okay, so this motion then passes. This concludes a debate on RZ02. If no one calls for recess, we're going to continue with RZ03, the Tuition Casual Vacancy Act. This is also by Senäts Comprada. Hang on. Yes, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tuishak. This bill was proposed based on some previous difficulties we've had with getting through the first clerk and getting a Taoiseach in office. And it also led me to thinking about the experience of the previous Taoiseach. And this isn't intended to be a personal attack. It was just noticing that the Taoiseach wasn't there. Some are saying that was a result of attacks rather than debate. I'll leave that to your own personal opinion. But the fact of the matter is the Taoiseach was not there. And that was a problem with keeping order in the zoo. And so we do not at this present time have an ability to deal with that situation should it occur in the future. And so I made that proposal based on the awareness of that problem.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Yes, Senator Toko, you have the floor.
So I think that this is something we should look again in the future just to kind of readdress. I have some reservations given that this introduces an impeachment mechanism, that it's just a simple majority. Overall, I think it's a good idea. I have supported it, but I do think that that's perhaps raising that threshold somewhat in the very near future is a good idea.
Thank you. Senator Comprada, you want the floor again?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it possible to amend a bill in this session? Or okay, all right.
The clock system doesn't allow for amendments on the fly like this. Like once it's on the clock, it's permanent. Like, yeah, it either passes in this form or it doesn't. Does anyone else want to speak up? All right. If that's not the case, we'll continue on to RZ04, Sense of the Zoo, Restoration of National Honor. I just saw Senator Marsh joined the session for a brief moment and then disappeared again. Unfortunately, he is the main sponsor and he's not here, so I can't actually give him the floor. I guess, does anyone else who's co-sponsored it want the floor? No? All right. Okay, Senor Comprada, you have the floor.
Just real quickly, I just wanted to say I support it because I do think it would be a positive for the founder to come back and make some reconciliation. But I do think I supported it based on him doing that. It wasn't for the purpose of just bringing them back and saying everything is just fine. It was a part of a process that says you need to make amends with the people that definitely feel perceived wrongs were done to them.
Thank you. Senor Davinescu, you have the floor.
The necessary amends and discussion has to happen first, in my opinion. I don't think that we are ready for this at this point, and I'll be voting against it. That said, I am very much in favor of that happening, and I hope that we get that process started soon. We do need some apologies, I think, and full explanation. And Truth and Reconciliation Commission feels a little over dramatic under the circumstances, but it would be a fine way to do this. But we need that has to happen first, and this bill just says come on in. So
thank you. Any more people want to speak up? Yes, Senor Autofio, you have the floor.
Yeah, going to agree with previous comments here. This is a process that Ben needs to start, I think, and take that first step. And he hasn't done so yet. So that's the ball is in his court, so to speak.
Thank you. Yes, Senor Aplester, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was a co-sponsor to the bill for the exact same reason that Brandon put up the bill, that as the founder of the nation, he should get a chance to redeem himself and come and join the nation once again.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak up now? Yes. Mr. Shiva, you have the floor.
Merci. One of the things that I've noticed is how few of us remain who actually had dealings with King Robert I back in the day. I believe that there's only 3 members of the current ZEU who actually dealt with him back in the day. I think that would be me. That would be me and 2 senators, the senator from Fiuva and the senator from Florencia. And I wish Jeff and John were right here, because I've had my issues with John, but yes, John could go into great and florid detail about, well, let's be generous. Let's say what that guy was like 20 years ago. People change. People can be redeemed. And the seneschal appears to have left the room briefly, but I'm sure I'll remind him when he gets back that he has sole discretion over who's allowed on the landing pier. He can allow anyone he wants on there and kick them off for any time. If we wanted King Robert I to be able to show his bona fides, then we could give him landing pier permissions and see what happens. But I don't know whether my colleagues here have seen the contributions from Gerard Dallencrader on Wittenberg. For those of you who don't know, this is somebody who is King Robert I's very good friend, who was with him at the founding of the nation, before the founding of the nation. And from what Gerald has been saying, Guy's opinions haven't changed. Guy's opinions seem to be that the likes of us have driven him out of his kingdom just because just for meanness. What Gerald has been saying evidences absolutely zero reflection or self-examination on King Robert I's part. So I will just say that I don't think this bill will get one piece of support from anybody who actually knew him back in the day. But I will also reiterate, the seneschal has complete discretion over who gets on the landing pier, and the seneschal has complete discretion over whether to open the trapdoor under anybody in the landing pier. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Divinescu, you have the floor.
The offer has been made to join the landing pier. We already did.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? If that's not the case, we will close debate on RZ04 now and continue on to RZ05, sense of the ZU, big neighbor democratic backsliding. Senor Tzadkomprada, you have the floor again.
Thank you again. As an American to Lawson, I have to sadly say that over the past at least 8 years, according to even places like Freedom House, the status of democracy in the United States has deteriorated. And the first reason I made this resolution is that when you have a nation as powerful and influential as the United States, when it experiences a democratic winter, that has a global impact. And I know that during the campaign, at least from the Green Party's perspective, we stated very firmly that we believe Thalassa should not be isolationist and should speak on matters of global importance. This is one of them. We've seen that in the recent actions by the United States and Venezuela, the threats against Denmark and Greenland, the talk about actions in Iran. Now, again, I am an ardent Democrat, a global Democrat. I support the removal of Maduro. I support the removal of the Ayatollahs, but those things need to be done in compliance with international law. And they need to be done in ways that increase cooperation globally. And so this is a simple resolution that states our grave concern about the status of democracy in a place that describes itself as the leader of the free world. And I think this is really just the beginning in including the Senechal statement condemning U.S. actions, the kind of statements that we need to make a practice of making more regularly.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
I completely support Brandon on this.
Yes, Senat Preseri at the floor.
I completely support Brandon on this. Sorry, I'm forgetting his Tolosan name. Zara Comprado shed, probably.
Yeah. Zara Comprada, yes.
Yeah. So that's it.
Thank you. Yes, Donna Shiva, you have the floor.
Merci, estimat Trisha. My initial response to this bill was to abstain on it for two reasons. One being, in general, some of the nastiest things that have happened in Tolosa have been breaking out in arguments over macronational issues, even they're good ones. Like, I think just a few weeks ago, our young friend Sitajian Malt managed to annoy a lot of people with his support for a certain fascist catboy fancier influencer. And those seem to make people much angrier than intra-Tolosan things. And the other thing is, as previously mentioned in the debate, I believe in complete cultural and social boycott of initiatives by unrepentant sexual harassers. But I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind over the last few days. They're shooting lesbian mothers on the streets of Minnesota. La mierda ten frappat el esvantagne. We can't mess around with any of this shit anymore. I'm voting per.
Thank you. To Senior Spencer, I just want to point out, if you want to speak on the bill, you can just get my attention, just speak on it. You don't have to type into the chat. Okay, I'm happy to give you the floor if you wish.
I don't have anything to say except to waste your time. And we've already realized that we have limited time in which to debate a bill. The only suggestion I had was not very useful, which was sneaking into the White House, abducting President Trump, and trying him in some other country like Canada on the grounds of being a silly person, and reducing the United States to being a silly country, then absurd and in the eyes of the world. Now, we don't have an armed force, but we don't have the goons to do that. So it's nugatory.
Yeah.
And I'll pass.
No, it's fine. His Majesty wishes to probably ask you a question, make a statement. Do you give way?
Yes.
Your Majesty, you have the floor.
Apologies, I'm not trying to interrupt you, Mr. Spencer. As an American, I am horrified by the authoritarian turn this country has taken. And if I were a voting member of the zoo, I would be voting in favor of this bill. I believe that we need to make a statement. I've done this before myself. I made a public condemnation of the president that we currently have. I joined the Seneschal on his statement. This is definitely something we need to do.
Okay. Senator Spencer, you have the floor again. If you wish to continue your statement, or if you're done, that's also fine.
I'm done. I'm
Okay,
done.
thank you.
I'm finished. I'm over.
By the way, just on the statement of not contributing anything useful, you have been elected to the Cosă. You have a right to speak on any bill if you wish. So don't worry about wasting anyone's time. I mean, that's just part of the game, I think.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but it's yeah, that's how the rules work. Does anyone else wish to speak on the bill? Okay, if that's not the case, we will close the debate now and go over to voting. I would like to I would like the Secretary of State to collect the votes.
Thank you. So we'll move on to voting, I guess, on the bills in the order that they're listed on the clerk. We'll start with RZ1, of course, and with confidence. I'll call the senators first and members of the Cosă second. You'll all be called in alphabetical order by surname. And if you already have voted, you can, of course, change your vote. And I'll point it out and I'll restate your vote beforehand. So just so everyone is aware of what the vote is, of the original vote was. And that's it, I guess. We can move out. We can move on to voting. So on RZ1, the Public Process Act Redux. So Senator Ard Prester.
Per.
Senator Ard Prester, per. Senator Davinescu.
Per.
Per. The members del Cosă, Michel Autofil. You voted per earlier.
Yes, that is correct. I will keep that.
Okay.
Per.
Maximo Malt, I think he is absent right now. Miestra Shiva.
Per.
Okay. Garth Spencer.
Per.
Marcel Tafial.
Per.
Brenner Tzaracomprada.
Per.
Thank you. That concludes voting on RZ1. Is there anyone who wishes to change their vote? I don't think so. But in case, we'll move to RZ2, which is the advisory opinion removal amendment. So the senators first. Senator Ard Prester.
Contra.
Senator Davinescu.
Per.
Michel Autofil.
Contra.
Miestra Shiva.
Contra.
Garth Spencer.
Contra.
Marcel Tafial.
Contra.
And Brenner Tzaracomprada.
Pair.
Thank you. Okay. I think a member of the Cosă Malt is still absent, so I'll just skip
Yes.
him from now on. But for the record, he voted pair on this bill and on the previous one as well. And of course, his votes will still count, of course. They are already entered in the database. If no one wishes to change their vote, we'll move on to RZ3, the Taoiseach Casual Vacancy Act. Benedict Alt-Prester,
Per.
Alexandru Davinescu,
Pair.
Michal Autofil,
Pair.
Miestra Shiva,
Per.
Garth Spencer,
Pair.
Marcel Tafial,
Pair.
Brenner Saracomprada.
Pair.
Thank you. So this concludes voting on RZ3. Let's move on to RZ4 now, then, which is Sense to the ZU Restoration of National Honor. Benedict Alt-Prester,
Per.
Alexandru Davinescu,
Contra.
Michal Autofil,
Contra.
Miestra Shiva,
Contra.
Garth Spencer,
Contra.
Marcel Tafial,
Contra.
and Bernard Saracomprada.
Pair.
Thank you. This concludes voting on RZ4. Last on the clerk is RZ5, Sense of the ZU, Big Neighbor, Democratic Backsliding. Benedict Alt-Prester,
Per.
Alexandreu Davinescu,
Pair.
Michal Autofil,
Absteniu.
Miestra Shiva,
Per.
Garth Spencer,
Pair.
Marcel Tafial,
Pair.
Brenner Saracomprada.
Pair.
Thank you. So this concludes voting on bills and resolutions on the clerk. The last item is the vote of confidence. This time, of course, vote uk or non instead of per and contra, or of course you can still abstain. So abstaneu. I'm leaving a second to understand if there is a recess planned on this, given what we discussed before the session was before the session started. But in case there is not, I will move on to calling the roll on this as well. So, of course, the senators do not vote. So, directly to Michal Autofil,
Non.
Miestra Shiva,
Non.
Garth Spencer,
Non.
Marcel Tafial,
Non.
and Brenner Saracomprada.
Known.
Okay, so without anyone wanting to change their vote for some reason, this concludes voting on every item on the clerk.
I just had a point of information.
Yes, Senor Saracomprada, you have the floor.
MCs are able to change their vote until the 21st, correct?
Yes. Not just MCs, but just all members of the
Oh,
zoo
yeah.
can change their vote via the database at any time,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
until the deadline has passed as usual.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Senor Dashir, for tallying the votes. Yeah, if there's no other business that anyone wants to bring up, doesn't seem to be the case. This
I would just
concludes.
suggest suggest a round of applause for the Secretary of State and for the Taoiseach and for the Mensa for organizing this so well.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. If there's no other items on the agenda that anyone wishes to add, doesn't seem to be the case. Then I conclude this this first session of the Cosă. Thank you everyone for participating and attending.
Zorg salute.
I don't feel comfortable making that myself, considering my location, but yes, acknowledged. Thank you. The zoo is adjourned.